This is the video walkthrough for the Loudoun County Business Reinvestment and Recovery Grant, also known as the BRIG. The application opens on Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 at noon, and applications will be considered on a rolling basis until the fund is exhausted. You can get started on your application by navigating to www.loudounbusinessfund.org. There's a link to that website in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. Although the application can be completed on mobile devices, we recommend using a desktop computer and the latest browser version of Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox for the best experience. Applicants using Safari may have difficulty signing up. Once you get to loudounbusinessfund.org, the page will look very similar to this. We encourage you to read through the program information and the eligibility requirements before you get started on your official application. You'll also notice here on the right-hand side of the screen, there are some frequently asked questions, so you can click through those to get some clarifying details on some of the questions that you may encounter as you work on your application. Now, in order to get started, you'll want to sign up and create an account. If you are logging back into an application that you have already started, or if you previously submitted an application to the county's Hotel Relief Grant Fund program, you'll want to sign in using the username and password you created here and go back into your account in order to continue working on progress from there. If you have forgotten your password, there's a Forgot Your Password link. Click there and follow the prompts to regain access to your account. I'm going to assume this is the first time that I'm starting my application to the Business Reinvestment and Recovery Grant. So I'm going to click the Sign Up button here. And now I'll set up an email address and password to get me started. Note that there are some required characters that have to be used in your account, so you can reference those here. It'll check them off as you log in, so you can make sure that they're all green, of course, and then click Sign Up to get started on your application. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit. And now you'll notice now that I'm in the application portal. And the first thing that you'll want to do once you're signed up is to go ahead and create a profile. So I'll put in a little bit of information about myself. And now note one very important thing while you're filling out this application profile is the email address that you provide here for your applicant's email. The email that you provide is what county staff will use to reach out to you about your application. So be sure that you're regularly checking that inbox. And once you've got all this information filled out, click the blue Create Profile button. It will take you back to your application portal, and you'll notice that your profile has now been complete, and there's some additional steps that have appeared below. And so now we'll go ahead and be able to provide some more of your Business Reinvestment and Recovery Grant application. Note that each application has to have a unique EIN or Social Security number associated with that. And business owners who have multiple businesses are limited to 5 applications total. So once you click here to get started on your first business application, and then if you have a second, third, fourth, or fifth, you'll be able to come back to this page and get started on those additional application processes. And that way they will all be linked to your same login credentials and this profile that you've created already. So after you click Get Started, I'm going to scroll up again. On this page, for the application, you'll notice the Submit button is grayed out. It will turn green once all of the required fields have been started. Excuse me. And the application is divided into sections for business information, financial information, project information, and criteria and certifications. In order to start that application, just simply click this blue Open button. And while you're working on filling out these fields, as you go, you can just click the Save Draft button here to save your progress. You'll be able to log out and log back in at any time to keep working. Again, please do note that since the applications are being considered on a rolling basis, it could be in your best interest to minimize that time that you're working on the application while still providing as accurate information as possible. So I'm going to go through and put in some of my information. Again, legal business owner name is here. We are going to just put in my official business name is listed on the IRS form W-9. And then if you do business under another name, please note that here. There are other questions we'll ask about the type of business, about your NAICS code. If you're not sure what that is, you can click here. There's a NAICS code lookup tool, and you can provide that information. We want to ensure that we have your business address on file. And if the business address is the same as your home address, you can click yes. If not, we will request the business owner's, the applicant's home address here as well, and those additional fields will show. If your business is located in one of these incorporated towns, please be sure to note that. As I mentioned, all of the applications do have to have a unique employer identification number or social security number associated with them. If you do not have an employment identification number, once you hit no, then we'll ask for the social security number associated with your business. And you'll want to make sure that you provide those digits. This next question is completely optional. Selecting any of these is just simply for data collection purposes and will not affect the application's eligibility. But if you would like to provide that information, you can let us know which communities that you identify with or consider yourself a part of. Similarly, the translation services question, while not optional, this one is required. This will not affect your application's eligibility. Requesting translation services simply helps guide us through future communication so that when we're reaching out to you, we can be sure to provide those translation services and keep working forward on your application. So I'm going to continue providing some business information here. We ask about the lease expiration date, the amount of rent or mortgage that you are paying for your business. And note this next set of numbers relates to February 2020. We want to know how many W-9 employees and how many 1099 employees that your business had during that time of February 2020. And then the current number of employees, both again, W-9 and 1099. So you can provide that information. And if the answer to any of these fields, if you don't have 1099 employees or W-9 employees for any of those periods, please enter 0. Now that marks the end of the business application section. We will simply continue scrolling and begin working through the financial information. Our first question asks whether your business has received any funds, any sort of grants or loans that are specific to the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that's through EIDL, the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP, or any of the programs provided by the Commonwealth of Virginia. If your business received a business interruption fund from the county, you can provide us that information here. And then we'll also need to provide some actual revenue and expenses for the fiscal years of 2019 and 2020. So I'm just going to input some made up numbers. You'll notice that some of these fields have some auto calculations that will go on as you're typing. So these grayed out fields you won't be able to change. They're simply calculating based on the inputs that you provide. Once we get into fiscal year 2021, you'll notice that we changed from the fiscal year overall to quarter system. So again, I'm just putting in some made up information, but you can see these calculation fields will continue to auto-populate as we continue working. And if you are filling out the application in January, perhaps, or later on in 2022, we'll want to make sure that we have these additional quarterly information. So if we've gotten to those parts of the year, please do check those boxes so that you'll see those extra fields appear that you'll need to provide information for. Now I'm just going to hit none of the above. And that brings us to the project information section. In this section, we need to have a brief narrative of the impact that COVID-19 has had on your business and or your industry. You can provide that here. And then the next question asks you to explain how the requested funds will enable your business to either make a change to your business model, adopt new technologies or practices, or otherwise reinvent your business to cope with the economic or public health requirements and challenges that have been created by the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, I'm just putting in some sample information so that we can keep things moving. The total cost of your project, in order to implement this, maybe it's a $1 million project, but please note, no matter how much your project is costing, the grants must be at or under $50,000. That's the maximum amount per business. So you must request $50,000 or less here in this field, and let us know what type of project it is. Perhaps my $1 million project involves some equipment and some software, so I'll explain here about the equipment, and then I'll explain a little bit about the software. And now that brings us to the criteria section. So you'll want to ensure that your business meets the eligibility criteria for this grant, and type your first and last name here to act as an electronic signature towards those criteria. And do note that all of the information submitted to this grant application is treated as public records and subject to the Freedom of Information Act, otherwise known as FOIA rules and regulations. And note whether or not you agree to that statement. And if something you're filling out does not meet the criteria or is not meeting those requirements, you'll see this note here, so you need to be able to progress. Another thing that would happen, for example, if I forgot to fill out a required field, like perhaps my electronic signature, and I come to the end of the application, once I try to mark this as complete, it will let me know. Oops, let me scroll up a bit. And I'll have to go back and edit my application. It'll show me, there'll be a red bar where the application is missing. And as I mentioned, that's here towards the bottom of my electronic signature. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. And it should allow me to mark as complete. Yep, and you'll notice now whether or not it clicks out green complete, you could also see this green complete here at the bottom of my application form. And I've also, now the submit button, instead of being grayed out, it's now green, so I can click that. It's important to know that you cannot change information after submitting, so be sure to review your application information very carefully. You can click edit here to make those changes, or if I'm ready to go, I'll click that green submit button. And now the system lets me know that the application has been submitted. After it's been submitted, you can click here to view a copy or print a copy of your submission. You'll also receive an email confirmation within the next few minutes that has a copy of all of the answers that you've provided for your reference. So that's another way that you can save that information. Now, back at the portal, if you click up here, the application portal, you can scroll down and see your application. It'll have your business name here. The name of my business is Test Business, and it now shows as being submitted. If I had a second business, I would click Add Another and redo those steps again. Please do continue monitoring your email inbox and phone number so that when county staff reach out, we'll be able to get in touch with you to resolve any questions about your application or advise on next steps in the grant review process. If you do have questions as you're working on your application, email us at loudounbiz@loudoun.gov or call 1-800-LOUDOUN for assistance. Both of those pieces of contact information, as well as the link to loudounbusinessfund.org, are in the video description here on YouTube.